Alright, so we're now talking about the second half of Meyrowitz' article about the no sense of place or behavior in its place. And he is now going to talk about, he goes back to reference the analogy that we talked about of the restaurant and, waiters and patrons and whatnot. And kind of where we left off in class, where we talked about how if we were to place speakers in the dining area and in the kitchen areas, that would, play out some of the dialogue of what's happening in each of those areas, would create this sense of confusion and embarrassment, right? Well, Meyrowitz takes that further to say that, okay, sometimes we have a merger or an overlapping, right, of different areas, and he further asserts that it's not only behavior being displayed according to settings and places, but also behavior is being displayed according to the flow of information that want to be transmitted. So, for example, we have, and he relates this all to the media, of course. So, if we're gonna take, if we have, if there's an adult party, right, and there's children, it's at a house, and there's children sleeping upstairs, and they wake up and they come down to the party, there's this sense of, it creates what he calls a middle region of where the children, come into this environment of the adults interacting, and for a time, the adults will change, right, what they're talking about and whatnot. But it's in that moment that this flow of information, right, to the children changes, right? And it can become a permanent situation, but most of the time it's temporary, right? Because once the children return to their beds, everything normalizes again, and the adults interact as they were prior to that. Another example could be the example of a dinner host. Like, if we were gonna invite someone over for dinner and there's a family, and the dinner guest arrives a little early, and he sees the commotion of the family, parents probably yelling at their children and whatnot, creates this new flow of information to the dinner guest of the family, right? And so this is where you have this overlapping and this new flow of information, if you will, of what's happening. So it's not only in places and settings, but in what kind of information is being portrayed and transmitted. Another example that he gives in the reading is about the President of the United States and his wife. When we see them in the media, we don't always necessarily think about this, but if we think about it in the terms of like this, of trying to illustrate Meyrowitz' point, is that the president, is he, performing his social role as the leader of the nation, or as this intimate relationship with his wife. And so, when we see him through the media with him and his wife, we're seeing certain things come out, right? And it creates this middle region of what information we are receiving. Because this middle region, while he's overlapping those two social roles, it's changing the way he behaves, changing the information we see and receive. And the middle region implies several things. The middle region creates a deeper backstage and a more strong and extreme front stage, right? Because this middle region can create confusion and embarrassment, but it also can create more extremes of the backstage and front stage, right? So, with this middle region can imply more than just backstage and front stage. Middle regions also integrate new behaviors, right? And new information that's being transmitted. So again, to the analogy of the family hosting a dinner guest, when he comes and he sees the commotion of family, that becomes integrated into the behavior in that place, right? So the parents might, reassert and re-comment on how raising kids is so important, or how having an orderly home is important, right? And so it becomes integrated into the performance. So there's this very interesting thing that the analogy of the restaurant becomes more complicated. It's not as simple as just a backstage and front stage, but there becomes this middle region that forms, right? Because you start to have this overlap of different social roles, different behaviors, and not just in a place or setting, but as to the information that is transmitted, right? And that is shown through media, creating deeper backstages and stronger front stages. Alright? And that's the end of Meyrowitz's paper. Yes. Hey. Okay. Thanks.